Hey everyone, so One Piece chapter 1047 just came out, and as you may expect, I really like this chapter. Partly, of course, because of the ending, which does seem to set up Luffy to lose, which, if you've followed my channel for any period of time at all, you know that's something that I really look forward to, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Actually, the part that was my favorite section of the chapter was the beginning, when we're focusing on Momonosuke. Because for me, for a long time, I think, obviously Momonosuke has been arguably the most important character in Wano outside of Luffy. I would say, pretty fair to say, he's been the most important character in Wano outside of Luffy. But the thing is that the piece of his story that I felt like was the most important was the burning of the castle and the whole scene where he was transported to the future. And I felt like, obviously, we got a little bit of that during the Oden flashback, but really it was just a small snippet. And it felt like it was such an important moment for his character. For example, we saw that was what instilled in him his fear of heights, right? Which he still has to deal with to this day, although obviously he's kind of gotten over that to a certain extent ever since he's been flying around as a dragon and trying to pull back all of Onigashima. But, just little important bits and pieces for his character were kind of set up from that scene, but that scene went by so quickly when we got it during the Oden flashback. Really, it was all in the span of one chapter that kind of went by really quick as a bit of a montage, because we're skipping between Scabbards and Toki, and then, Denjir having his transformation, and then, we have a little bit of an interaction between Kaido and Momonosuke, but it just goes by so quickly, and I felt like, in my mind, back when I was reading that chapter, I thought it was a bit of a missed opportunity, because I felt like Momonosuke, being such an important character whose arc is so important to Wano, for the most pivotal scene for establishing kind of how he feels and what he's fighting for and the things that he's struggling with as a character, for that scene to have gone by so quickly, I thought that, that was a little disappointing at the time. But as we're seeing now, it looks like we're going to get more and more of Momonosuke, focus, as we set up for him to have his grand moment of basically holding Onigashima up. And part of that is getting to delve more into what happened on that night. I don't know if we're going to get any more out of Momonosuke, like maybe how he felt when he, arrived in the present and everything like that. Maybe even, his initial feelings or experiences when he arrived here with Kinemon, Raizo, Kanjuro, etc. But I feel like what we got this chapter was kind of that missing piece, so we don't necessarily need to get any more or anything like that in my mind. I was happy to see kind of the, just fleshing out how he feels about everything, right? Where he's coming from to what he's trying to become now. Because what I love about Momonosuke is that, yes, he's been through a lot, and he's seen and experienced a lot, and he's had really good moments like, declaring his name to Kaido, I'm Kazuki Momonosuke, right? And obviously being able to turn into a dragon and fly Luffy up to Onigashima, right? So he's taken steps forward, but he's still not quite there. The Momonosuke we're seeing right now is still struggling. He doesn't even know whether it's right to open up the borders of Wano country or not. That was something that he was grappling with just a few chapters back. And even right now, he still is struggling. Can I hold up Onigashima? Can I do this with the flame clouds? There's so much pressure being put on him, and he's yet to have really that sort of aha moment, and I don't know what that will look like. Well, I guess we can kind of imagine what it'll look like, but he's yet to kind of really get over that sort of, that sort of character struggle that he's clearly been dealing with ever since he was sent to the future and ever since Oden's execution, etc. So getting to see the groundwork for that, and kind of how he's just like, for him, he still really is just a child, right? The child that was basically saying to his mom, like, it's so reasonable, right? We obviously want him to step up and be a man, but he's not. It's unfair to expect that of him. But, very realistically, as a child, he's just like, please, why can't I be with you guys? Why can't I be with my mom and my sister? Why do I have so much responsibility, thrust upon me that I'm having to bear on my shoulders so early? And then Kinemon's coming out and being like, you have to, like it or not, you just have to do this, right? You just have to take this responsibility, and you have to allow us to keep fighting, in your name, because that's just what has to happen, and you have to take that step forward. So I like that the Momonosuke that ultimately left, his time period or whatever, the goodbye was him trying to hold it together and trying to appear as the man that he knows they all want him to be. But that tearful goodbye was at the same time very much that one of an 8-year-old, right? That is what you would expect an 8-year-old to act like if they're trying to pretend to basically be a big, strong leader that they know inside they're not. So I don't know. I like that whole Momonosuke scene. I like how this is really coming together for his character. It does feel like there's one last big jump, one big step forward that he needs to take, which I imagine we will probably see him taking in the next few chapters. So his whole storyline, I never thought I would like Momonosuke, when we got him on board from the start. But I think a lot has come together for him over the course of Wano in particular. Same with Kinemon. I did not care for Kinemon for God knows how many chapters, but over the course of Wano, and, even with the addition of this chapter, a lot has happened to make me really, really warm up to Kinemon, and he actually has become... Him and Momonosuke are my two favorite Wano citizens, right? And they're actually two of my favorite side characters that I've ever sailed with the Straw Hats throughout the series. Might surprise you guys to know I like them both better than Trafalgar Law, which I think is probably not the popular opinion, but that's just how I feel. So I like the Momonosuke stuff quite a bit. Probably the best character arc in Wano so far. I mean, actually easily, because Wano hasn't really had that much, despite the large number of characters it's had. So, looking beyond that, we have obviously the Luffy and Kaido fight. I like that we're still getting to see more and more of Luffy's repertoire, kind of some hilarious stuff, getting to throw lightning bolts like we kind of got a hint at last chapter's ending, but also just being able to hang on to and swing around on lightning bolts. That's pretty insane. And at the same time, it looks like, Kaido's hitting him with everything Kaido's got. He's trying everything. He's hitting him with his club, he's hitting him with Borobrets. All the Borobrets have, I think, like a terrible, terrible track record of actually being effective against anyone. I think that I don't remember a time that a Borobret actually really, really, messed somebody up, period. It seemed intimidating when Kaido busted it out in Act 1, but I think ever since then, Raizo's taken care of it, Kinemon's taken care of it, Zoro's taken care of it, Luffy's tanked it God knows how many times as though it's like a mild... nothing but a scratch, basically. So Borobrets looks flashy, nothing much to write home about. But Borobrets, he's thrown his wind slices and everything. Nothing seems to really be phasing Luffy in the current mode that he's in, which is to be expected of the current Devil Fruit he has. But Kaido did drop one very interesting bit of dialogue, really, really, really interesting bit of dialogue, because, as you know, if you watched my most recent video talking about how villains' dialogue can really, really matter, here Kaido talks about basically how Haki is ultimately more important than Devil Fruits, and that's something I'm going to talk about in my next video coming up Tuesday, because basically going back to really the start of this saga, the Versus 4 Emperors saga, it really seemed like this whole storyline was kind of shaping up to be Luffy taking the steps upwards, sort of up the Haki ladder to essentially become, a full-fledged master of Haki, and that really seemed to be sort of the train that he was on from start to finish, right? Even beginning with Whole Cake Island all the way to now. So that definitely had more emphasis over the course of this whole storyline. It's certainly a lot more than Devil Fruits. And that's something that I'm going to discuss again in that Tuesday video. But it is interesting to see Kaido actually call that out, that something like Haki, which is something that's more intrinsic to you and yourself, is ultimately more important than Devil Fruits, which are basically abilities that you can happen upon and eat, and then, basically you get a big power-up, but it's never going to be as valuable as that inner strength that spirit that you carry yourself. And the big golden shining example of that Kaido finally clarified and set to rest any sort of debate on is that Roger is not a Devil Fruit user. He was not a Devil Fruit user. He became the strongest pirate ever through exclusively Haki use, which is insane to think about considering that, Kaido's around, he's got the Dragon Fruit, Whitebeard's around, he's got the Guruguru no Mi, but Roger was on equal footing. Okay, I'm accidentally wandering into some power scaling or whatever, but at least Kaido is giving him the respect as the man that basically stood on top of the pirate world with just Haki alone, which is a really big deal. So that does suggest that Haki is going to be very, very, very important for Luffy by the end of this arc. Now, the ending of this chapter, I guess I don't want to beat a dead horse too much over this, but to me, I just think, just the entire tone of most of this chapter outside of the Momonosuke bits was very, very, very much pointing, in my opinion, to Luffy not exactly just finishing Kaido off cleanly with one big punch the way he seems to think. I think that would be an extremely optimistic outlook. I highly doubt that's going to happen. Just the tone of this chapter, basically from start to finish, the people in the Flower Capital, very, very happy, in a feel-good mood. People in the raid, the samurai, they're all feeling pretty good. They're all really happy. They're like, yep, Kaido's basically, he's in a corner. It's basically, that's all she wrote for Kaido. We can all celebrate. The Wano's going to be saved, etc. You even got some Usopp gag moments happening in the background. And Luffy, of course, as optimistic and happy and carefree as ever. So just the tone from start to finish suggests that this is very likely not going to be as simple as it seems, especially considering, as I've talked about in the past, a million different reasons, but the most straightforward being Kaido still has his flashback and his awakening, which obviously is going to be a very big deal. So, beyond all that, the one lingering question I kind of have is Momonosuke. So there's some conflicting little directions going on here, right? So last chapter, Yamato was telling Momonosuke, you're going to have to hold up Onigashima, right? And I think that's something we can all expect is going to still happen. Luffy is telling Momonosuke, you got to move Onigashima. So I'm not sure exactly how things are going to play out here. Is Momonosuke going to move Onigashima out of the way for Luffy's punch? If so, is he going to have to move it backward? He would likely try to move it backwards away from the Flower Capital. He would not try to move it towards the Flower Capital. But in that case, if he's moving it away from the Flower Capital, are we going to get to that scene that Yamato hinted at of Momonosuke holding up Onigashima above the Flower Capital? I mean, the Sky Lanterns are going up. You would expect Onigashima to wander into, you know, the citizens of Wano's field of view pretty soon as the Sky Lanterns illuminate basically what's happening in the night sky. And Onigashima, you would expect to kind of float into their view around that same time and sync up pretty well there. So it's kind of hard to think about how Momonosuke would actively, like, where is he moving Onigashima to? Or is he not going to succeed in moving Onigashima, even though he's been able to pull it back for a while? There's just a few things I'm kind of wondering right here, like, how is Onigashima getting over to the Flower Capital if Luffy's asking Momonosuke to move it right now? And if Momonosuke doesn't move the Flower Capital right now, like, that would be pretty bad for the people, the many allies that Luffy has that are currently inside Onigashima, who would not appreciate a sun god's giant fist basically pulverizing all of them as it comes down while defeating Kaido at the same time. Although granted, many of them have decided that they're ready to die basically, so maybe they wouldn't mind. I don't know. But I think that's all for this video, and I do expect that maybe next chapter or two, we should be getting basically Momonosuke hopefully holding up Onigashima above the Flower Capital, and then maybe in a couple chapters, we get Kaido's flashback starting in the next 1, 2, 3 chapters, who knows. So, that's all for this video, and if you enjoyed, then definitely like, comment, and subscribe.